Welcome to Through the Grapevine episode 2. I hope that previous bit isn't going to get included. I'm hoping Harsha's going to cut it out.
He's very good
at least. Very good editor. Thankfully, you won't hear the rude, vulgar language that just came out of his mouth. But, of course, as always, my name's Bren. I'm going to be hosting. Ignore the flesh-coloured green screens on the back. They're actually suits. They're not flesh-coloured green screens. And, of course, joined once again by the wonderful, charismatic, beautiful, shining jewel in my life, Harsha.
Yeah. Fine. You set me up perfectly there.
And, of course, Sideshow as well. But we got a lot to get through. Episode 2, it's currently 1:30 in the a.m.
1:30 a.m. What a classic, Bren. 1:30 in the morning.
It's currently 1:30 a.m.
You can tell it's late.
Yeah. No, like, my bedtime has been 10 p.m. every day, so we're staying at way past the bedtime. We're breaking a lot of rules for this one to bring you some Overwatch content, but Christ, it's going to be a disaster. Let's just dive into it. First topic on the list, Apex Finals. This is how long it's been since we've done the last one. Apex Finals. Watched that one. Fantastic game. I personally thought it's going to be one of those games that considered to be a classic, you know, so to speak. I believe you told me you thought you disagreed, Sideshow.
No, well, people were raving about how amazing it was, and it went to 9 maps, and it was like a slobber knock over a series. Oh, sorry, 7, yeah. Yeah. No, sorry. I meant 9 because there was the two control maps as well.
The control maps.
Yeah, don't question my mathematics, Harsha. No, but to be fair, I was camping at the time with no internet and had to go to a pub and download it in like 5 different parts and watch it in 5 different parts. And I spent my time like pausing. I didn't really get the live effect, I think, so it probably didn't have the same impact on me. But at the same time, I did kind of feel like it was an incredible series for sure. But the way that it was so split between the game modes was kind of weird, and just the whole time I was thinking like a different format would have completely changed the outcome of this, you know, like tweaks to, is it a best of 5 or best of 7, tweaks to how do we pick the maps, do we draft, tweaks to do we have multiple escort maps rather than multiple control or assault or whatever, tweaks to should we break a tiebreaker on assault with a control map. I mean, it changed any of these things and you probably have like vastly different outcomes in terms of the map score at the end and even potential winners. So it was a weird one for me as well.
Yeah, and for the record, it was Lunatic-Hai won all 4 maps on either hybrid or payload, and Kongdoo Panthera won every control, and I think all the assaults went to both assaults were tied and then went to control. So,
but the mad thing as well is that both of the assaults were like, what the tiebreaker was the exact same stage of Li Jiang. It was control set to Li Jiang. It's like just randomly roll a dice and see what happens. So it's a bit of a crazy format, I think. I mean, it was hype.
Yeah, it was hype. Like, honestly, the outdoor stage as well was fantastic. The whole setup. I was sat downstairs watching it on the Fire Stick, and my dogs by me. They were watching it as well. Big fans of Overwatch. Apex it's a tradition now. The dogs watch it with me downstairs with a cup of tea in the morning. It was honestly fantastic. Cast did a brilliant job. I think it was one of the first times they did a tricast. So that was God. This is why it's late now. The names have escaped me. Achilleos, it's Proxy Wolf, and
Papa Smithy. Yeah, that was great. I really liked that element, actually. I thought they did a really good job of it as well.
Yes,
you know, covered it all. You could tell how slick they are, you know, like proper professional casters. Because
not like us.
No, not like us. They made it run so well. Like the technical skill to be able to incorporate all of that, and just the preparation to bounce from point to point without overlapping or just like looking like you're going down a dead end or something. It was really great from those 3. And actually, when I was watching it as well, it made me feel like the whole thing was kind of surreal, because it was outside in a park with a gigantic skyscraper next to it, like blazing out Apex and the Overwatch logo and stuff. It was almost like watching a fantasy movie or something, or like a sci-fi movie in some weird sense, because I was sat there looking at it like I feel like I can't identify with being sat in that crowd, because I've just never experienced that. This is like weird. It's like I'm sat outside watching a festival, but there's a massive skyscraper next to me.
It's like a real sports event. They don't.
But it wasn't even that. It didn't even have the feel of a real sports event. It had the feel of something like very futuristic from my point of view. Like maybe it's because I'm not used to Korean esports or something. But yeah, it felt. I mean, it's a good job they managed to dodge the rain as well.
Yeah, true.
Yes. Well, that's enough of Apex. I mean, just a passing note for us. Apparently, it was a big game. But
I mean,
leading on
the
from
other thing to say as well is just that Lunatic-Hai established absolute dominance over the last two series of Apex and absolutely solidified themselves as the best
of all time
team of all. Yeah, so far in Overwatch's history.
I agree.
Probably deserve to like have an Overwatch League spot or something.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for wonderfully leading me on to the next point. News article put out by ESPN recently. They cracked the case. Lunatic-Hai have been sold to the Seoul spot, and it's a bit of a tongue twister for you, but yeah, they are going to be taking up the South Korean spot, temporarily moving to LA, I believe, as well as I only skimmed through the article. You guys know more information than I do, because you knew all the inside gossip before I do as well. As part of being part of over.gg. I don't know why I'm shaking my head like this when I'm saying it, but
just bobblehead approach.
But yeah, so
just heard it through the grapevine, didn't we, mate?
Absolutely, through the grapevine.
Well, important to note.
Follow me on Twitter, Brencast. But yeah, go on. Important
to note that it says that the deal is unconfirmed right now. They still need to. It's pending. Their signatures. So It's very likely that they end up with the Soul spot. We saw Guido hinting at it when he messaged Munchkin on Battle.net on stream. But definitely really exciting to see the best team in the world likely going to participate in the Overwatch League.
Yeah, I think they're one of the rosters that you should just like. It's greatness. It's magic. You shouldn't touch it because you'll mess it up. You know, they have the staff and the coaching system and the players that have managed to create magic with that roster. And I mean almost literal magic, because when you consider what they were at the beginning and they had like the talented pieces and the potential and the shifts in terms of their style that they've gone through and the shifts in terms of the meta that they've gone through, they've completely reinvented themselves a couple of times and have not just maintained it but actually accelerated in terms of their performance and understanding of the game, and arguably have, what is it, like 4 of 5 possibly, if you consider their full roster of like the best players at their role or on a particular hero. It's crazy.
4 definitively.
Yeah, if you consider like if you wanted to say that Zumba's like the best on Zarya and Huayu is the best on Genji, if you like agree with those as well, then I think they're lock-ins for like the hero, but not the role. You know, I wouldn't call Huayu the best DPS player overall or Zumba the best flex player probably, but incredible skill across that whole roster.
What other? I mean, you couldn't really say any other team in Overwatch has achieved that sort of status that they have, can you?
I think the only teams that have come close are Envious and Rogue, and Rogue hasn't. Rogue really, it's 2 different teams, right? They have the full French roster and then the roster with Tavik and Reinforce. The one with Tavik and Reinforce is the one that won all the LAN tournaments and then collapsed promptly after the meta shift. And then the current one has mostly only won online tournaments, as far as except for Take TV, of course. And then Envious is a kind of different story, because I think their period of dominance happened before they actually won any tournaments. And then they won tournaments, and then I think the Koreans kind of overtook them. But Lunatic-Hai has just consistently gotten better and better. And I think, they do have potential to even go on further from this. So, like, I do think that they're definitively the best team in Overwatch.
For sure. I think something that's really interesting, though, that I've only just thought about because this news has just been announced and it triggered another thing in my head, is that as far as we know, you have to be 18 to be able to participate in the Overwatch League, because you have to sign contracts that are could be upheld in probably like the state of California, given that it's based in Los Angeles, right? So they've got Huayu on the team, who's at current time only 15. Is just about to turn 16. He's 15.
What?
According to
he's 15.
According to Wikipedia, he's 15. Born in 2001,
That's
but
unreal.
August the 23rd. So he's just about to turn 16. So there's no chance that he's going to be I mean, we don't. I'm saying there's no chance. I mean, there's no chance he's going to be 18 by Overwatch League. There's potential chance that they have like some kind of system that they're going to work around it or whatever. But I can see like why they're aiming to potentially broaden out and add more DPS players, add Lee Tae-jun, add potentially Munchkin or Clarice, something like this. Try and build out in that sense. It's weird that they're all going towards the DPS players, but I think that these guys have actually probably got a huge amount of flexibility that we just haven't seen.
And the other thing is, it's important to note, always Suv, the coach, has noted that he makes all of the players on the team practice off roles just so that they're competent if they ever need to sub. And we've seen like Esk has to play the Sombra sometimes, whereas Ryu Jae Hong flexes onto. We saw him on the Soldier 76. We saw him on. I think we've seen him on Widowmaker, and we've seen him on Reaper as well.
Yeah.
So.
Zarya
as well, yeah. He's
in the past.
One of the best Zaryas in the world, apparently. So, I mean, yeah, I think they'll be fine regardless. They have the talent on the roster, the system where they have always Suv, the supreme authority on their team, the one who benches even the most egotistical player. So, I definitely think that their system, what they've done so far, is going to work down the road.
The other thing to note as well is that Guido is actually 17 right now and turns 18, according to Wikipedia. This information's from there, so it could be wrong, but January the 13th is what they've got as his birthday.
Oh, so presumably might not be able to make it to Overwatch League as well.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, as far as I'm aware, you're probably able to do something like sit on the bench or, still be tied to the organization in some sense so they could bring you in when you turn. But I don't think that January 13th may be something like halfway through the Overwatch League. It may actually still be at the beginning of it, depending on when it kicks off. So we'll see. They might have a system where people who are turning 18 midway through sit on the bench and then assign the contracts at a later date, something like this. They might even have some kind of shuffle week at some point during it. So that's not to say that Guido and Who Are You are definitely out here, but it does look like some adaptation is required to fit into Overwatch League, and they'll still be playing in Apex this season as well. So potential for them to be dethroned just before they go and represent the entirety of Korea.
Well, oh well. Right, let's hastily move on to the World Cup. Good little metric to move on. South Korea, I guess we could start at South Korea. They've been bossing Katowice. When did we stop? Was it the episode 1?
Yeah,
we called South Korea.
The Katowice.
No, we called South Korea.
Yeah, we called South
team.
Korea a bad team, shit team.
No,
but
you did.
No, listen.
Sideshow did. Sideshow called South Korea a bad team.
No, I didn't.
We've got you quoted, mate. Don't try and argue it. But
you're like one of these people, like these shifty journalists, right? Like Harsha. They pick apart your interview, they twist it into the narrative that they want. They say that South Korea is a shit team, and you lose your reputation forever.
But I believe we touched on South Korea. They've been destroying the playoffs. They drew up some playoff brackets, but I don't think those are correct anymore. So we don't really know who's going to be playing who.
Yeah, I believe it's randomized actually.
Yes. Since then, we have had more group stages, is the word I was looking for just then. We've had, of course, the
Santa
Monica one. Right. So no, we didn't actually. What am I talking about?
We did.
Katowice. We didn't talk about Katowice.
We didn't talk about Katowice either.
Why am I hosting this?
Yeah. Asking the question.
I ask myself. Yeah. Being hard to discuss it all the time.
Right.
But
so South
you were
Korea,
the best that we could find.
South Korea, they bossed their group, right? Came out top, cream of the crop.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
No, you didn't. You called them bad. But
no,
we're not going to talk. We're not going to focus on your mistakes today. This is a day of forgiveness. Let's talk about. So, I mean, South Korea's Group E, that's the boring group. We don't really want to talk about that. South Korea dominated. They slammed it home. Do we really care about that? Really, where the money is Group F, isn't it?
Yeah, and it came down to.
Let's talk about that.
It came down to one series because it was just Canada versus Russia, and that went 2-2. They had to play a last map. It was actually probably the best series of that entire weekend, unless you really enjoy watching Korea dominate, which I personally do. Yeah, I actually do. So, but it was really interesting. Honestly, pretty heartbreaking for the team that lost because they ended up having to obviously play South Korea, and nobody had a chance against South Korea. But it was definitely the best series of the weekend. We saw Shadowburn going off on the Genji. We saw Agilities going off on the Genji. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. The story of the fans who were watching and stuff, I didn't actually watch the game, so this is where I want your guys' input. Is that Russia was the better team but lost because they couldn't deal with the Fire Mercy.
Yeah.
Is that too simplistic,
Yes.
or
No,
is
that's
that actually
true.
what happened?
It's probably simplistic, but it's definitely what happened because I think that they just didn't have the flexibility. Perhaps if they had Unfix there, unlike having Mistakes and I believe it was Sharik. So, I mean, it was a good roster in its own right because they had such a good dive core, but if they had potentially been able to bring Unfix, maybe they would have had somebody to deal with the Far Mercy.
So if we go back to what I actually said would happen, right? They call me the prophet because what I said would happen was South Korea would absolutely dominate their group and everyone would be talking about how incredible they are, but they only dominated shit teams. That was what I said. And I said that people would overrate them because of that. Now I don't know whether people actually did overrate them because they do actually look sick. But
to be fair, they also dominated Russia. Like, it was really bad.
They did. Yeah, that was insane. I wasn't expecting them to dominate that hard, but I was also expecting Russia to actually play a little better, I think. I was expecting Russia, especially after they brought in Sharik and Mistakes, to be potentially a team that would just gel and perform spectacularly, a little like USA and UK did, because they massively surprised me.
Don't jump the gun, lad. We're going to get to them, don't you worry.
Yeah, but this Katowice was fairly cut and dry, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely understandable. So Korea, Canada, or South Korea I should specify. Those are the qualified teams.
I don't think anyone's mixed this up, are they?
The Democratic Republic.
Well, you just got to do it, you know. You got to be politically correct with these things, right? Santa Monica is the next group that's on our plate. Now, the entire weekend, across all social media, across everything, Reddit, Twitch, Twitter, I was shit talking the USA constantly. And
like
I
the
was
rest of the
bigging up
UK
the
team.
UK, like the rest of the UK team. I was bigging up UK, saying they were going to be above and beyond, a little bit memey, but a little bit coming from the bottom of my heart as well.
Was any of it coming from your brain?
No,
Never.
never. But the USA definitely, they didn't surprise me. They played well. They came top of their group. The one team in that group, though, so it was United States, Taiwan, Brazil, New Zealand, that really disappointed me was Taiwan. I don't know if, or I guess Chinese Taipei, as they're known as well, if you want to be politically correct. I'm just reading off over.gg. But that was the one team that disappointed me because that's the Flash Wolves roster from the Overwatch Begins with a P.
Pacific. Go on, what's the last one?
Championship.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Well, you get a cookie.
Thank you. They didn't play, to be honest, at the level that I thought they'd be capable of, and they ended up coming second seed in their group. USA came first. USA played astoundingly well. You made comment to this Sideshow. In fact, I am going to let some of you speak in a minute. I'm not just going to keep ranting on about the USA, but yeah, Taiwan. They just didn't play up to par. Thoughts?
Well, people have been pounding Sideshow trying to get him to put Flash Wolves in the top 10 of his world rankings, and it's funny that the one time they do get to prove themselves internationally, they just completely flop. We saw, like, immediately from the outset, we saw them just look weaker than what we thought they'd look like. They got rolled on the first half of Kings Row by Brazil, but then they seemed to shore up their weaknesses and then actually 4-0 Brazil. But once they played against USA, it was actually a relatively close series, but I definitely didn't expect them to lose to a mixed team.
Yeah, this entire group stage was really interesting for actually how I model Overwatch teams as well, because it challenged a lot of the models that I've set up over the past couple of months or whatever. Because in general, when you pair rosters together that have like the best players on the best roles, they don't perform at the level that they do when they have the rest of a normal team around them and they're the star player. But actually the United States and the United Kingdom, but more so the United States actually, who were playing more of like a clutch style, I think. Everybody on there was playing at like the performance level that you see when they're the star players on their domestic teams back at home. And yet they managed to knit it all together. Yeah, and Jake was actually playing better, yeah. And the rest of the team was playing at about the same level. Now, whether this is because they have like a style where Jake's being given more room by Five Friction and Sinatra, who are playing slightly better than their counterparts over in LG Evil, or whatever, somehow they've managed to unlock the potential so that the whole of the United States roster is actually as good as each individual player as a star player, which was crazy to me. It didn't really make sense when I was watching it. But this is a fantastic team. They're actually performing incredibly well. And the United Kingdom was kind of similar. But the reason that was strange is because they're not a team. You know, they haven't been together for very long.
What actually... oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go on.
Well, what I actually found weird is I don't think that... Maybe this is my bias, but I don't actually think that United Kingdom looks as stacked as the United States in terms of people on their roster. Maybe that's bias, but like I honestly don't think so. And the thing is, they actually look to have a better performance during that group stage. They went 15-0. They didn't lose a map to Chinese Taipei. They had a better performance actually against Chinese Taipei and against Germany than the United States did. So I thought that was really interesting, because what if this is actually like a really, really good team? I didn't expect that much out of Team UK, to be honest.
So one thing I want to say quickly before I forget, but one thing that's not really talked about in regards to the USA playing so well in their group is the home crowd advantage. That's something that people haven't really considered. It's a legit thing. The teams where they've got the home crowd, you're shaking your head at me, but listen to me. I might not have played on the big stages, right? But when you've got the crowd screaming your names, you know, that when you win a team fight and the crowd is roaring, it propels you as a team. It propels you forward with momentum. And when you lose a fight, you know, and the crowd's screaming against you, imagine what Taiwan were feeling. They lose a team fight, they get team wiped, and the crowd's just literally ranting and raving. It is a big impact on it.
Yeah, the crowd was actually ridiculous there as well.
But you were disagreeing. You were shaking your head. You don't think that's big enough of an impact to propel the USA just a little step forward?
Yeah, I mean, it would propel them a little step forward, but they took leaps and bounds forward. It was crazy. Like the difference between where I was expecting like them to be in relation to Flash Wolves was vastly different. I think it was a combination of both them performing way better than I expected them to perform, but also Flash Wolves being overrated, I think.
The other thing is it was Jake's first LAN, so if you know, you'd think somebody performing in front of that big of a crowd would have had jitters at least, especially during the first time.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, if you talk about the home crowd advantage of them just like purely being loud and like cheering you on and stuff, like that can either carry people away, make them crumble under the pressure. Like, there's a lot of different. You have to have a very set personality and strength to the team to be able to feed off the crowd. And some teams even feed off the crowd, like cheering against them as well. When you look at teams that have really developed in CS:GO and stuff. Now, for Taiwan, I agree with you. Like, more so that it was a home crowd advantage. I think it was actually like an away game disadvantage for Flash Wolves quite significantly.
Yeah.
They're playing against teams that they don't really understand, whereas in the Overwatch Pacific Championship, they're playing in like a region that has quite an established slower meta with the D.Va kind of thing. United States and United Kingdom were playing hyper aggressive, like clutching plays and stuff that knocked Taiwan completely off tempo and really made them. They didn't have a punish game. Like they weren't able to punish United Kingdom at all when they were playing against them, and they only managed to do it to United States a couple of times. But yeah, I agree with you. The United Kingdom looks better, and this is kind of challenging my idea of modeling rosters, where actually having teams playing together for a reasonable amount of time. Obviously, there's a plateau to the amount of time that you can actually spend together, and I've always believed that roster changes are better than just kind of sticking together. I wrote a piece on it a while back about like you should make roster changes before championships if you actually want to win them, and like play to the meta rather than just trying to build versatile teams and stick with it. But it was insane how quickly these teams have gelled and been able to just kind of fit the best players together and be able to perform. And this is something we saw tons of in TF2 actually. And so and the kind of thing that I had ignored moving over to Overwatch because it was such a different game. But in TF2, everybody understood their individual role, and the individual performance was so important within the metagame, which is kind of similar to how it is at the moment within like the dive meta, that you were able to take what you knew from the role and be able to essentially fit it into any team where you already had some kind of synergy, and then you just needed to work on the basics, you know, rather than having to start at like base zero and work yourself together and really fit things together as a team, which made like these mixed rosters, these super teams really powerful.
Perhaps part of it is that US and UK both had established coaches helping them run the teams, right? So maybe Kai, maybe Luke helped actually, or it was
Hayes
Hayes.
as well.
It was Hayes.
It was Hayes was the main coach, but there was a lot of people with Team UK in the background who had a big impact.
So maybe they helped. Maybe they helped the people on the team understand their roles and find their play style and evolve that
definitely.
way.
Yeah, but as for Taiwan, Chinese Taipei. I think there's a couple of ways that you can interpret this. Like, did they just choke on the big stage, and are they actually a legit team? Are they completely overrated, and as a result, is the entire Pacific region overrated? Because really, when they've just been playing in isolation this entire time, one of the reasons why we haven't added them to the over.gg world rankings as of yet, and the only point of contact they've had is really with an outside region has been blank, the Team Australia, who also had like close games against Japan, Sweden. Like, the Sweden team didn't look great when they were playing as well, so it does look like a lower level for that entire region, and perhaps the hype of the Overwatch Pacific Championship and Taiwan going on this ridiculous winning streak with Flash Wolves has inflated how people think about them.
Yeah,
fair enough. Good talk, guys. Good talk.
But the other thing that I was going to mention as well is that when you consider where people were placing Flash Wolves overall is like around the 10th best in the world, right? And when you think about the teams that are around the 10th best in the world, the kind of tier of teams that you're talking about is teams like Liquid, FNRGFE, FaZe, Arc6, like these kind of teams that are around there, like 1, 2, 3, Laser Kittens. This is the tier of teams that are like vying for that 10th place spot in terms of the world rankings, and some of the Korean teams as well, like Kongdoo Uncia and Meta Athena, when they were looking bad last season, they look like they've developed a little bit now. But this kind of level of team might also just get slammed by United Kingdom. Like, it's possible that the United Kingdom team and the USA team are actually really good teams around the level of like an E-United or like an Immortals roster, like superstar teams, and that they would just dunk on 10th level teams, and we haven't overrated Taiwan. So that's another way to interpret that.
perhaps these are Overwatch League level teams.
I mean, it is quite possible. I think looking at them, they really haven't like been playing against the other elite level teams.
Yeah, for sure.
But and when you say Overwatch League level as well, I'm sure there's going to be quite a disparity between like the best and the worst in Overwatch League.
Right.
Like they're not Lunatic-Hai level for sure, but they might be like approaching an Immortals level, perhaps. It's difficult to tell at this point, but I think that it's reasonable to say that could be the case, especially because some of them have scrimmed against other teams around the same level, and Kai, for example, has said like this United States team would be a contender in Apex.
Fair enough. Another understated fact as well, I guess, is obviously it's running the tournament client. That's not to say that
that Mike isn't sick.
This is what I was leading on to. Mike EA is a man that is he just blows me away every time I watch him play. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to blow his ego up to unreal proportions.
It's
not already there.
It's already massive. Just go for it, bro.
All right. But he played out of his mind, and it's a factor, right? You put Mike EA on LAN, and he pounds. He doesn't care about the opposition. Doesn't care. The man was playing on a level that I would say matched almost Sinatra, I should say. Like other top tier tracers that are just incredible at the game. He was playing phenomenally well, and it made me really want to see the USA UK matchup. I was kind of just hoping that UK would throw the game against Germany just to play against them, like in a way, just because it would have been a class game to just see the USA not go to BlizzCon for one, but also.
They tried to throw that series. They played some bad Reinhardt, some McCree.
Yeah, that was a final map when it didn't matter. That was hilarious as well. When seeing Smex go to Roadhog, hook in the Zen and not actually kill him, and end up getting destroyed by himself. But yeah, regardless of that, so Group H. Before in the lead up to it, a lot of people said this is going to be a close group. Israel have got Zen Gaming, of course, which is sort of like this. I don't know, on a team on the cusp of tier 2, I'd say maybe.
Actually,
cusp of tier 3.
My spies
cusp of tier 3.
My spies were telling me that Israel looked quite good in scrims, but they ended up coming out and doing absolutely nothing during the actual tournament.
Interesting. That was a weird one.
And then Germany, which was a sort of mixed team of like the old guard and some standout players. Nesh is a player that I rate very highly. I thought he was outstanding at Takeover as his first LAN, and he played phenomenally well.
I thought Nesh and Cranks were quite good at this tournament, actually. I didn't expect them to do very well, but first of all, I didn't know who Cranks was really at the beginning of this tournament. I'd heard the name, but I just didn't know much of him. And then Nesh obviously is a good player, but I didn't expect very much of this roster because most of them are either washed up or not really participating in the professional scene. But I have to say that some of their players did definitely impress me.
Still didn't do that much, though, did they?
No, I mean,
didn't make it to BlizzCon.
They didn't make
No.
They did take. Did they take a map off of USA, or did they only take stages on the hull?
They just took stages. I mean, they looked like they were competitive with them at some points, mostly on their control, yeah, as you said. But yeah, UK performed far better than I was expecting. They really gelled. They look like they've got good teamwork and also like coordination as well.
Yeah,
it was impressive.
It's very sort of wholesome to see how well they took to sort of taking it very seriously as well. The whole event in general. The fact that they were putting in so many hours scrimming. The fact that almost every committee member, apart from yourself, I think, Sideshow, was putting in work in the back seat, you know, and behind the scenes.
That's me, the lazy one on the Team UK committee. Oh, genuinely, when they first started, and they were like, "Oh, you know, even though us three got picked, like we'll let everyone take part. You know, you can all be part of it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh well, I'll just make sure that they're not fucking it up." And then I went into the Discord, and they were just like blasting it. Like Stylosa had it on lockdown from like day 0, not even day 1. He'd already prepared like spreadsheets and everything, and had his management down. And people were offering to coach. I was like, I'm literally not needed. Like, I'm just gonna step back because they've absolutely got it.
Yeah, they've stepped up. Outstanding performance from all of Team UK, and that's the end of episode 2 of Through the Grapevine. So thanks for watching. No, but they did play extremely well.
One thing I want to add before we move on, Fion on Fire, the ESPN writer, did tweet. He asked both Team USA and Team UK to describe themselves in 3 words. Team USA, I think they chose love, brotherhood, and friendship. And Team UK chose, what was it? It was lads, banter, and lanimals.
Lanimals.
How good is Lanimals?
It's so good.
That's fantastic.
I haven't heard a more British thing.
Who said Lanimals?
Must have been Chris. No, it was
Chris,
Cruz.
Cruz?
It was Cruz said Lanimals.
It was either Chris or Cruz, yeah. That is such a good word. It's not even a word, it's just...
It's not a word.
It is a word.
They are Lanimals, though. They are Lanimals.
They are Lanimals.
Absolutely. He's coined a new word, straight up. But fantastic performance from them. And I guess we could shuffle our way off the World Cup now. We've talked a lot, unless you've got any other final things you want to talk about. Brazil? Or...
Yeah, one last thing. Brazil fielded their best team. They got kind of shat on.
I didn't expect much out of them.
I thought they had like a dark horse potential, might be able to bring it to them.
You said you thought they were going to beat USA.
Yeah, I said that USA might not have a chance of getting out of the group. For starters, I vastly overrated Chinese Taipei, underrated USA, but I thought Brazil had like a dark horse shot of potentially making the games close or maybe even winning. But yeah, the South American scene clearly not up to the level of everywhere else at the moment.
Yeah.
Well. Right, moving swiftly on to the Apex roster shuffles now. We've got a lot to get through here with the Apex roster shuffles. We've got a big list, so I'm just going to list it off. Interject wherever you think appropriate. Li Tae-jung is back with Lunatic-Hai for 1. That's number 1 on our list.
I mean, it doesn't really mean that much to me. I think they already have a very serviceable tracer in Guido, and Who Are You is apparently playing a lot of that. And I think that Li Tae-jun, he did hit rank 1 on the Korean ladder, but I think it was mostly tracer play, right? So I think he's realistically going to just be a substitute, add some leadership to the team, and come back, because I know he was very well liked. So I think that's probably about it. I don't think he's actually going to be a very prolific member of the team, rather.
Yeah, it's a confusing one for me. I didn't really get it. I was trying to ask around like a couple of Korean contacts and see whether they had said anything more about what his role would be, or whether he'd be taking over somebody's duties or whatever. No idea.
Nothing.
At some point as well, it must be noted that Eska hasn't done his military service yet, and will at some point be called up for that. And then they'll be lacking somebody with like a leadership and an ability to just do the team role and like the kind of things that he's been that Eska's been playing so far. So potentially they're just future-proofing their roster or adding different substitutes in. Who knows?
In South Korea, are like esports athletes
they're not
sort
exempt.
of abstained from, not exempt.
I think they have
they
like
delay it.
Yeah, I think they have a deferred period, and then they have to go and do it.
Yeah, I believe it's something like it has to be done before 30, and he's kind of a couple of years away.
Okay.
Well, a few years away.
Right. Okay. So we're actually going to get into the section now where I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of these Korean names so badly.
Good.
But we're going to get
Pray
get
for
on
forgiveness.
Yes, please. RunAway, and let me just get my RunAway jumper out quickly and put it on.
Oh Lord.
Oh, they've actually started selling merchandise again.
Have they?
But you know, Bren's, it's not even a real one. They stopped selling them. They sold out of them. So he made one.
Made
one. I'm sure that logo.
And that's how I lost my job in the Overwatch scene. I am gonna buy at least 2 though when they're eventually for sale again. I do feel bad about this.
Who's gonna wear the second one?
Me.
Who's gonna wear the first one?
Me again.
He'll cycle through them.
You're gonna be so warm.
He's gonna cycle
I do
through
feel
them.
bad about this. I wanted to support them because they had that
Yeah,
miracle
same.
run, and I was like, God, I want to support this team. I want to get some merchandise, and then they just stopped selling it.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God.
It was such a
But,
pain to get it in the first place as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, exactly. So I literally just made it. So there's my dark secrets out.
Craftsman.
Craftsman. Yeah, that's me. But RunAway, they're getting Kaiser back. He's back from C9. That roster, God knows what's happened to that. It's just exploded. They're getting Janu. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, Lucio sub and Tizzy as a tank sub. So
Yeah, but he's not actually sub. In their game today, Kaiser didn't even play. I was really surprised by that as well, because Tizzy, when they played in some of the online tournaments beforehand, really didn't impress me. I didn't think that he looked that great as a fucking
Winston.
I was going to say Roadhog Winston. But
Did they play any Reinhardt at all?
They didn't. Couldn't tell you. Can't remember. I just flicked through the VOD. I have yet to watch it properly.
I haven't watched it either. That's the trouble.
Also not watched it, but I've heard
What we do.
Solid podcast.
We call ourselves an Overwatch podcast. We haven't even watched the Apex game.
What I was gonna say is I have heard that Kaiser's Reinhardt is significantly better than this Winston from people that have scrimmed him and people that have played with him. And,
For sure.
Yeah, and so I think that likely they're keeping him for when Reinhardt comes back into the metagame, and they might have better chances with somebody else on the Winston.
That's fair. Yeah, that's sort of the approach that I was thinking as well. Even when it was RunAway back in season 3, they were running Kaiser. They put him on the bench in the crowd every now and then, just when they were running full-time dive.
Yeah.
Whenever he didn't too many grapes.
Yeah, too many grapes. Just overslept, slept in, and bloody hell, can't wake him up now. Eats too many of them. You just can't wake him up. He's gone. That was a danger at takeover, but yeah, Meta Athena now. This is the next one. Meta Athena. They get a new tank, Rio, and a new support. And now this is a difficult one.
I'm just gonna Hyonu. I'm just gonna say it for you.
Actually,
Thank you.
Can we?
He's the captain as well.
Can we go back to RunAway really quickly? I wanted to ask.
Sure. Yeah.
Did you see the? I actually haven't watched this match yet, but did you see that Haxall had played some Lucio?
Yes.
Does anybody know why?
Mm-hmm.
I can't really think why
Did-
that would be,
I'm
especially
sure
I
because they
read a
just got
reason
in a
somewhere.
Lucio sub.
Did they play a triple support composition?
You know, if you're gonna ask a question about a game that all of us just admitted that we have yet to watch the VOD, I don't know what you're expecting, mate. Like, did you expect us to go like, no, we haven't watched it, but here's a very elaborate theory on what composition they might have been running, and like how Haxall and Lucio could really open up opportunities for them? I have no idea. I didn't watch the game.
Fair enough.
I've got it queued up. I was gonna watch it until we ended up being delayed for like 72 hours doing the bloody contenders shuffles.
Yeah, we'll get back to that in episode 3, so
Sure.
don't you worry. We'll go back to that. But Meta Athena is the topic we're talking about. They got a new tank, Rio, and a new support,
Hyonu.
Hyunu.
Honestly, it just make it sound like it's Korean. You know, it's not going to be
Hyunu.
That's even worse.
There's no U in it. I mean, what are you doing? You're butchering this. There's a U at the end.
There's a U at the end.
Okay.
Hyun.
Unreal.
Right, let's stop before you spit everywhere. Jesus Christ. Yeah, they
Somewhere Monte Cristo's looking at this and he's loading an M9 just like
You think Monte Cristo watches this?
Probably not, but if he was.
all right, so back to the topic. Meta Athena's new tank, Rio, they got rid of Chansik. Chansik joined a different team on as a sub, I believe. I can't actually remember who that was. Oh, that was Kongdoo Uncia. So it's weird. Like, Kongdoo Uncia have been like the bits and bobs shackled together of the Korean scene. Very strange. They haven't had that strong a performance. They took a map off Kongdoo Panthera actually recently, but it's weird. It's a Frankenstein roster for sure. And I'm not really sure, like, did they cut Changsik and bring in Rio, or did Changsik leave because he wants to join Kongdoo? I have no idea what's going on there, but Meta Athena look... well, they got run over today by RunAway. They look like they're going to be probably at the similar level as they have been the whole time.
Fair enough. All right. Panthera now, moving on to these guys. They're picking up, oh, Jesus. Badosin.
Honestly, I don't know why we have you, like, read it out at the start. Shall I just read out the Korean names from now? Badosin, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anazen player, and you've also added a few notes to this. Sideshow does all the work here through the Grapevine. He's literally got a massive Google Doc for me to read through, and he's put curious DPS daily tank.
Okay, right. Maybe Harsha. Maybe we do need a new guy on the host role, right?
Bring back Sammy Face.
Please.
Okay, right. Panthera. I'm going to run you through it. I'm going to run you through it, Bren. They've picked up Badosin, who was this sick standout Ana Zen player, mostly Zen from WNV Korea,
right?
Who are an incredible team, but couldn't actually play in Apex or the Chinese scene because they were a Korean team in a Chinese organization.
Who might have been an incredible team. We'll never know.
True, but they looked pretty good. And Curious was their DPS player as well. So Curious has also joined Kongdoo Panthera. so I'm not just saying, Curious, DPS. And also, I'm not saying that they have a tank every day. A tank has joined called Daily. The fact that they capitalized probably means that they're proper nouns.
Oh, no.
Bren needs to do his homework. But yeah. Curious has joined. Curious was okay. But it's weird pickup actually for Kongdoo Panthera because are you really going to feed him over Rascal and Birdring? Maybe that means that like Rascal and Birdring are
Overwatch League
been poached by a different team or something because it is very strange. Maybe Curious is literally just going to sit on the bench, but why would you want to replace either of Rascal or Birdring? They've very clearly been the best DPS duo in the world.
Yeah. I agree completely. I guess you do have to have a contingency plan, in case this Robert Kraft rumor is true, where Huck was visiting the Kongdoo house and he's now linked to the Robert Kraft organization. So, I mean, I think there are definitely going to be a ton of teams gunning for that duo, though. So it does make sense to have.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be very surprised. Because the Korean teams don't have like the money to be able to hold on to these guys. These are not big organizations. And so unless the Korean players desperately want to stay in Korea rather than play in the Overwatch League, because they have to move over to Los Angeles for this first season, maybe some of them, they want to stay in Korea, they don't want to move. But if they're open to it, I would be very surprised if we don't see a lot of these incredible players with Birdring and Rascal obviously being two of the best, getting picked up for various Overwatch teams, or at least being made offers.
All right, okay. And this bit here, Kongdoo Uncia, they've risen from the grave with bits and bobs. That's not the exact terminology that you've used, but and you've got a list of names here that once again we're going to attempt to pronounce. When I say we, I mean me. Chansik, Free, Decay, Damon. Thank you. What that you can't pronounce?
Just say da-ding.
Da-ding.
I think they actually pronounce it ding ding. Yeah,
ding.
No, I've listened to like the Koreans casting it because I was listening to what was I listening to? A Korean cast of South Korea against Kongdoo Uncia.
That's right.
Yeah, when Diding was trialing for them, and it sounded like the Korean casters were saying ding ding, but I don't know whether I just misheard and they were actually saying diding or something. Who knows? Because it's obviously like a romanization of a Korean name, so it's not gone perfectly.
Quartermain, Luffy or Luffy, depending on how much anime you watch, and Dance. So
It's a weird team.
It's mix. It's bits and bobs Frankenstein creation.
When DNC was gone last season, but was on Uncia before, right?
Yes.
I remember
that's the case.
He was actually quite good during Apex Season 1 and then ended up falling off a bit, I think. Uncia actually... I haven't watched Uncia versus Panthera, but from watching the show match, they looked really out of sorts. I mean, I guess you have to give them some...
But they were using a whole new roster.
Yeah, that is definitely fair. But when you're using Pharah against a team with no hit scan and a Junkrat, and you're still not doing anything, like failing to capture the first point on King's Row, I think there's something probably systematically wrong, right?
Very possibly. I mean, Dance actually didn't leave Kongdoo Uncia. What he did was he moved from DPS, where he was playing with Birdring, over to support.
Right.
So he was playing like the Anazen support for them, and they had Bubbly. He's moved over to Coach. So actually, I think there's only 3 of them. So they've switched out a full half of their team, and they don't look that much better. So there was only really one time where Kongdoo Uncia were a really sick team, and that was when Birdring was going fucking mental on Roadhog, and they had like grasped the Reinhardt Diva kind of composition before everybody else.
And that was when Birdring was out dueling Taimu in half of those Roadhog games. Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Take some skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AF Blue, Afreeca Brew. I don't know why I pronounced it like that, but they've got Breck on tag. Don't giggle. It's honestly, it's way past my bedtime, as we've already mentioned. I slur my words. It's like I'm 5 beers in, or 1, depending on how well you know me. But they got Breck on tank to replace Mano as the captain, Kalios on off tank, In-Young support sub, and is this TY Dollar or just Ty Dollar?
Ty Dollar, I think.
Ty
is just
Dollar.
how people pronounce it.
Flex sub. So
Sideshow can speak
a lot
more,
of shuffles.
Sideshow can speak more about Kalios because he's followed WNV Korea for a while, but I definitely think that AF Blue is weaker with this move in terms of they lost. I think that Mono was easily their standout player, maybe behind Recry. Arhan, Recry, and Mono were definitely the top 3 though, and they lost, the guy who's representing South Korea as their main tank in the World Cup. So definitely like a huge loss, and I think it weakens them quite a bit actually.
One thing that I really liked about the former AF Blue roster was that they had a well-balanced roster. Like, they didn't have a huge amount of talent all in one place and then a dearth of it all across the rest of their roster, but they didn't really have like real star players other than Mano, I thought. And so having lost Mano, that was one of their best players. I mean, IDK is also a fantastic Lucio, and then they have a solid backline and decent DPS players as well, but none of them are gonna go wild. And the fact that they've got Breck in, and I can't actually remember which team Breck played for. Was it MVP Infinity or Space? I think it must have been Infinity when they folded. They brought him in. And I had never noticed Breck being a good player. Now, having said that, I don't tend to pay attention that much to like the teams that just get dumpstered every season. I tend to like, when I'm even watching the matches, I'm focusing on the team that's dumpstering rather than the team that's getting dumpstered. So I tend not to notice like really good players on really shit teams, because you also look really bad if you're just getting slammed all the time. So I think Taerong, who coaches AF Blue, has probably found Breck's talent by scrimming them rather than watching their tournament matches where they've just been getting wrecked. So he clearly sees something there that he believes in. But at the same time, when they knew that they were losing Mano to LuxuryWatch Blue, you don't really have that many options. This isn't a team that can afford to spend massive buyouts from other teams and like take another big name tank. They have to pick up rising potential, and they've been able to do that every season. But I've only been able to convert on it a couple of times, and last season's roster was really good, and all of the talent that they brought in and believed in worked really well. But I wonder whether they can do the same here, because Breck, I think, is going to be a real weak link for the team. And Kalios as well, I think, is a small downgrade from Donghyun, who I really rated on the Diva role.
Right.
I like it. You can actually pass as an expert Korean analyst, to be honest.
I am. People think of people put me in that pigeonhole as an EU analyst because nobody knows about Europe.
All regions.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
The complete package.
That's what I'm saying.
When's your Overwatch League contract?
It's right over here.
All right. X6. They picked up Bum God. What a name, but he's changed it. What's going on there? Can you imagine how good it would be to just say, Bum God gets off the graviton? Or just screaming it. I don't know if he does play D.Va. He's a flex, right? So, possibly.
D.Va sort of gravitons anyway, so...
Yeah, there we go. This guy's supposed to be casting games, Sideshow.
I think probably he was told by like Apex, by OGN or something, don't have the name Bum God, but it's just a bloody fantastic name.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think that probably goes down as the best name that we've had so far in Overwatch. We had some crackers in the World Cup, didn't we? What did we have?
Rage
of Tofu. Yeah.
Rage of Tofu might be better.
We had
another one that was
last
based
year.
on food. What was it?
Bacon Jack?
Another lesser team.
Bacon Jack.
Well, Bacon Jack is based on food as well, but there was another player that was similar. It was like Rage of Tofu, and if they had a 1v1 with this player, it would just make sense. The world would make sense to me. They had a name.
No, was it not that?
This is gonna annoy me for ages until I find it.
How are you gonna find this?
Don't worry,
You're just
I'll
gonna
find
search through all of the.
I'll know when I see it.
Overwatch.
I'm sure you will.
I'm sure you
I'll know it. Will it be? I'll know it.
And now the interval of our podcast where Bren searches for somebody who might have food in their name. He has no more data to go on other than that. He's going to look through every player that he's ever seen participate in a World Cup and see if they have any reference to any kind of food stuff in their name.
Right, listen, I'll find it, don't worry.
You thinking of breakfast?
No.
No.
Wait, give me a second. Singapore? Singapore?
Rage of Tofu.
This is Singapore.
No, Rage of Tofu's on Singapore.
Unreal.
Where is this player?
We'll check back in with
know.
Bren in 30 minutes.
I swear to God, there was a player. I don't know where he's gone. Episode 3. We'll find it then. That's when we'll unleash it then. But, right. Moving on. Very quickly before I honestly collapse of exhaustion or I say something I regret if I haven't already.
You said multiple things that you're going to regret.
LW Blue. They've got a bit of drama on the horizon. So Luna, the former captain, was cut just before deadlines?
It was literally the night before the deadline.
Honestly, very disgusting to be honest. Not a nice practice at all. I do condone that. Because apparently his statistics, they compared him with who was it?
Pine.
Well, they didn't actually say.
They didn't say, but they're
Pine.
comparing it with somebody. Was it Pine?
Pine was
they were comparing it to?
Yeah.
And they basically looked at statistics of Winston Lab and they said, right, you've got worse statistics, you're cut. And apparently this was at like 4 a.m. when he was just like streaming or something. And they that is just ridiculous to me. And there's this big drama over it. Talk to me.
Honestly, maybe his performance warranted it, but it was definitely shady how they did it right before the deadline and didn't give him a chance to get signed by any teams for Apex. I mean, that's definitely the biggest fault I think here. But I mean,
But there was an extension to the signing window, right?
Was there? I actually did not know that.
I'm pretty sure. I think I read that on somewhere.
Regardless,
it could be wrong.
They weren't looking at. I think it's important to note they weren't looking at statistics from Apex. They were looking at statistics from, like, mined from the game from, from a program, from scrims.
No, Harsha. They used Winston's lab in the same way that we all can. It's not possible that they could have access to a deeper version of Winston's lab that perhaps Sparrow gives to teams.
There's no chance they cut somebody over what, like 7 or 8 games played over. I mean, not 7 or 8, but rather probably like 15 games played over 2-3 months.
Yeah, that's what Reddit just didn't grasp whatsoever. When I was looking at that, it's like, how can you use Winston's lab to determine who's best when they look at the website and they only see the result, the statistics for the tournament games. But these teams are using Winston's lab on their scrims, on VODs of their scrims, passing the VODs and being able to collect data every time they scrim, and then putting that all together and looking across the data. And I mean, the other thing as well is that the data is just a tool. I was listening to the Overrated podcast, and Cara Hall made the analogy, like, it's like being angry at the knife when someone stabs someone. it's like Luna got backstabbed and they're angry at the knife that did it. Like, why are they selling knives like this? It's ridiculous. but it is kind of like that, because if you're the coach that decides to put your trust in statistics in this sense and read into them, you know, to some degree, you know, that's a tool that you're using to understand the game. But at the end of the day, it's your decision, and there must have been far more taken into account, or he's a terrible coach. Well, but there's more likely the first.
There's another thing to note in that people actually use statistics quite often in real sports and in other games in order to build rosters, judge teams, find out when people are underperforming and whatnot. It's sabermetrics. It's a whole study. So, I mean, as ridiculous as it sounds, it's not something that's unheard of. It's definitely something that has a basis in, you know, traditional sports and other esports.
Having said that, they use stats that would be much more akin to, like, what's your overall healing, like, who are you being able to heal at certain times, what's your heal spread across the team.
Yeah.
These are all stats that you should have access to, and were staples in games like TF2. People, that was a super stats heavy game. You would draw up the, you know, like a Winston's Lab kind of log after every single poke or scrim that you played, and look through it, and people would analyze it, and it's like heal spread, overall healing done, who you used the nano boost on. These kind of things are not available through Winston's Lab as far as I know. Because it uses the OCR parsing, just basically what you can see on the screen, rather than hooking into any kind of Blizzard API. When those kind of statistics become available, I think sabermetrics will be a much more viable approach.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's not all, apparently. We've written a bit more down here, a few more sentences. Jesus Lord Almighty.
I think the important thing to note is probably the whole... I'm saving Bren from himself right here.
Thank you.
I think the important thing to note is that they got mono.
Yes, they did.
Thank you. Yep,
they did.
Yes, mono.
They got mono,
fielded.
And that makes me wonder, like, is Janice actually going to get any playtime? Because you don't bring in Mano, and Mano certainly doesn't leave Afreeca Freecs Blue if he's just going to sit on the bench. Surely not.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Jonas is going to get as much playing time. Likely, I mean, maybe his team thinks he's injury prone, right? I think he had the collapsed lung last season. Didn't something else happen to him the season before?
No, it was the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, it was the same thing.
No, it was the same thing.
Same thing. Collapsed lung again.
Yeah, it's a pneumothorax, and the way that they treat it is that they just drain the air that has collected, like, on the outside of your lung in your chest cavity, and then the second time it happens, they surgically, like, sew up the area or take out the area that has, like, a weakness in the wall, and after that it's something like a less than 5% chance of reoccurrence. So if they've understood, you know, like, the medical condition properly, then they shouldn't expect it to recur. It normally only recurs twice, and then they surgically fix it, and then you've got almost no chance.
Why have you done so much research into this?
I was training to be a doctor for 3 years, Harsha.
Okay, fair.
Just trying to bait him into saying that. You know exactly why he knows all this information. You're just trying to get him to say, I was trained to be a doctor.
Just trying to remind me of the life that I could have lived, earning far more with better quality of life.
Where is he right now? Is he down here in the overlay?
He's on the other side.
But down here, this man could have been the one stitching you up, healing you. Can you imagine that? Waking up and seeing that lovely blood.
What a terrible idea that would have been. Yeah, but they've also brought in a new healer as well to the team, because they already lost Gambler, so now it's the time for Sylph to shine, really, and we haven't seen Sylph play whatsoever. Apparently he's pretty good from people who know him from the Korean scene, but we really haven't seen him on Lucio. And they brought in a guy called Jonak. I don't know how you pronounce it because it's got 2 J's at the beginning, but
Jonak.
Jonak.
I'm just saying that. I don't know.
Yeah, who's apparently a ranked god on Ana in particular, and LW have always preferred to run the Ana and play like more defensively rather than damage focused like aggressive composition, so that's a possibility for them. They've also got Pine the super sub who can literally play anything, so there's a lot of options for this team. But the fact that they've cut their captain as well, and they haven't actually, so the way that all of the Apex rosters are laid out, they identify who the captain of the team is as well, and it's almost always the player who's the oldest on the team, but they tend to just, probably because of the way Korean society is structured, the oldest also tend to adopt kind of like a big brother attitude as well. So it's not like you're just randomly, like in a Western team, if you randomly assigned it to whoever was the oldest, you'd probably get some shitlords as captains. but in the East, because of the way that they culture, or at least in Korea, it seems to be that like the older ones act as the big brothers as well and actually do have a good captain system. But LW Blue, I don't actually know who the oldest is in that team. I think it could be Sebiolbi. It might be Sylph or Jonak.
Sebiolbi was captain of captain, one of the two captains of the South Korean team rather, and I think Mono was the captain of AF Blue last season. Correct?
Possibly.
So
can't remember.
Could probably be one of those two. I would expect.
Mano's quite young.
Is he? I would expect it to be
I don't
Sebiolbi.
think it was him. I think it was Arhan.
It probably is Arhan, Lord Arhan. I expect it to be Sebiolbi.
Yeah, and the only reason I bring that up is that I feel like with Luna saying that the org is run quite badly as well, you know, it might just be claims of like the spurned lover, but he's, I see potential for LW Blue to be a bit of a all over the place this season and really take their time to get into the groove, because they've got all the pieces there, and in fact have had all the pieces there for 2 seasons now, but have not really been able to make it work.